Hey, Shalom, Shalom. Hi, Rob Tawab La Atham, a we the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach to you so called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Acham Atham, Kaya, Amalak Wathashamayim, Kwara, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say, Kahalayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. A double honor to those apostles of great millstone that taught us his truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing his truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
So essentially, just like it's stated in the title, it says we have the true Hebrew. And I actually want to start with a precept real fast. This is Tazapanya, Zephaniah chapter 3, and we'll get verse 9. And it says, For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. You got to pull it up?
Yeah, I have it right here.
Come on. It says, Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 9, it says, For then will I turn to the people a pure language, which when you go into the word for pure, it goes into barar, which means to be without mixture. So it says that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. You see, so we have the name of the Lord. The Lord's name is Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. You see, and then we also have the basics of the Hebrew. You see, and I actually wanted to get to illustrate that, and some examples that we have, just in day-to-day life, i.e., the world map, So, Baba Kushak, could we get that picture of the so-called Middle East?
Gone.
And as we can see, when we look at, how Esau orients maps, essentially the north serves as the default position. You see, but in the ancient world and how it's supposed to be ran is that we're supposed to face the east. And a lot of ancient maps, essentially you'll see that on the maps, and that it attests. And if you were faced, if you were to face the east, facing towards Jerusalem, to your right side will be Yamyan or Yaman. Hence why when we look at this map right here, it says Yemen. You see, so that's the way of the east. This actually will be southward to Israel. You see, but the south is to the right. All right, so hence the reason why it says Yemen, and again it will be Yaman. You see, but then if you was to turn towards, if you were to face the west, all right, your left side will be Somalia. And just to prove that, could we get the etymology of the word Somalia, Baba Kusha?
Gone. Uh, the etymology you said?
I'll grab it. This is the etymology of the
Gone.
word Somalia, and it says, so give me a second. It says Somalia. Phone taking a while to load. It says, so let me go back.
I got it.
You got it?
Yes, Somalia. It says country named for the indigenous Somali people whose name is of unknown origin, Somalian.
Well, a few days ago, I think they might have took it out, but could you go back to that
To the map?
yeah, the map.
Gone.
So when we look at this map right here, it says you got Yemen, which will be to the right side of Israel if you were looking to the east. But then if you were to face the west, all right, ultimately Somalia, that would essentially serve as the left hand. You see that, hence Somalia in Hebrew, left hand is Sham Allah, Sham Allah, Somalia. You can hear it in the phonetic sound. So just to get that example, could you go to the blue letter Baba Kushad and just type in left hand? I actually grab it, but it says, when we look at the word for left hand, it says H. It says H8040, and it says Sham Allah. All right, and it says the left hand, the left side, left hand. It says north as one faces east. You see, so again, then I'm gonna read down. It says rather perhaps from the same as H8071 by insertion of the alap through the idea of wrapping up properly dark as enveloped, i.e. the north, hence by orientation the left hand, the left side. So again in the ancient world, the right, or excuse me, the east, Hakwadam, the east is essentially the default orientation. I just wanted to get some precepts, just going to how we have the true Hebrew, you see, and then also to show that the east was the default position. I'm gonna get this as well, but it says, so like, give me a second. All right, it says in ancient maps, this is the AI overview on Google. It says in ancient maps, the default direction was typically east. This is because many cultures consider east to be the direction of the sunrise, signifying a new life, renewal, etc., etc. But pretty much the point, the default direction, in the ancient world was the east. All right, and I just want to get some precepts on that as well. But this is let me see, Isaiah, Yeshaya chapter 59 and verse 19, and it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. And when we go into this word for the rising of the sun, it's going to read, it says, H42:17, and it says, place of sunrise, east, east with the sun, the east, it says, toward the place of sunrise, to the east, eastward. All right. And essentially that word for the rising of the sun is mazarach, which means the place of sunrise. All right. Now essentially served as the again the default position for maps. All right. I'm gonna get another word. This is the word for oriental, because again, facing to the east. All right, that would be the orientation that we will essentially follow in the ancient world. So,
Bro, but damn, my shit just crashed out.
it's all good. But we on that word for oriental. Baba Kushab, you can get it on the screen.
Con. Bear with me. This is the word for Oriental in the Edamon online. It says late 14th century of the Orient from the east.
Mm-hmm.
It says Eastern from the east of or belonging to the east.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about oriental, a lot of times they ascribe that to like Moab or like Ammon. You see, oh, like they're oriental. That essentially means that they're from the east. Baba Kushab, could you get the word for orient?
Con. The word for orientation.
So just go back.
Oh, Salakia.
Just click on the verb. Yeah, the verb orient right there. Yep. And it says the direction east, the part of the horizon where the sun first appears. Again, going into Mazarach, like the word that we got. And it says now with the capital, the eastern regions of the world, eastern countries originally vaguely meaning the region east and south of Europe. So pretty much again, just going into the region of the east, and that was again the default direction. That's why it says from Old French Orient east, from the Latin Orientum, the rising from the sun, Mazarach, the east, the part where the sunrise originally rising. It says present participle of ori, to rise, origin, which the origin when we go into in Hebrew it will be hakwadam, the east, what was original, what was established essentially. So can we get that word for orientation? You see, because when we look at if you're correctly oriented, right? Let's actually read this. It says arrangement of a building to face east or any other specified direction now of action from Orient, process of determining a shalom Yahweh Bahashalam Yahushua Bahashalam Chakodash Bakatah. But it says process of determining the points of the compass is by 1868, hence the extended sense of action determining one's mental bearings. You see, so actually where your mental bearings essentially going into your intelligence, or how your mental state is. If you're always constantly going to the north or the disoriented way, essentially by default you will be disoriented. So if you was oriented, you will be have your mindset in the east. The ways of old. I'm gonna get a quick precept real fast. This is Yaramya, Jeremiah chapter 6, and we'll get verse 16. It says, thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. Essentially going into the ways of the scriptures first and foremost. And it says, but they said we would not walk therein. 2/3, they don't want to get down with the tune. So it says, it says, also I set watchmen over you, which when you go into this word for watchman, is shamaryan, which means to preserve a life, to guard. And it says, I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. But they said we will not hearken. You see, that's the mindset of 2/3. They don't want to be oriented. You see, so Baba Kashak, could we get the definition for disoriented? You see, because essentially, again, we got the examples of if you was to face the east and you had Israel at your front, Panya, you're facing Israel. To your right side, to the south, it will be Yemen. Yemen is a country, in the so-called Middle East, but in Hebrew it will be Yaman. You see, but if you was to face west, all right, to your left side will be Somalia. Sham Allah. That example. You see, showing you that essentially the default direction again, was the east. But it says deviation from an east-facing position. So a deviation of being oriented. So it says confusion as to direction. You see, so this ultimately has a small effect, on the bodies of mankind. The default direction. When I'm reading from the top, it says deviation from an east-facing position, confusion as to direction, disorientation. So dis means no, or la'a. Orientation means to be, have your wits with you. You see, and if you actually look at it in the spirit, who is a ally of Somalia, the westward facing country, it would be the U.S. So from there, could we get let's get let's get Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 27.
You said Proverbs 24 and 27, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the book of Proverbs 24 and verse 27. It says, prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house.
Right, because we got the word for orientation. It meant again to have your bearings with you, have your mental bearings with you. You see, so again, the Lord established a way. All right, going into this truth, you see, which we are to follow. You see, and then also how the world is ran. It's not meant to have the north as a default position. Because mentally that does something to your mind. You see, what Esau has done is thrown off the foundations of the world. He's running it off of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
But it says,
I'm reading for you real quick.
Yeah, you got it.
Salakia, this is Ezekiel 37, just making the point of that disorientation, right? This is Ezekiel 37 and verse 11. Then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried, our hope is lost, and we are cut off for our parts. So that just signifying just adding to the point that that disorientation, how far that has led our people, to the
Right.
point where our people are completely lost, right? They don't know which way is left, which way is right.
Right. It like essentially, at a point in time, we was connected. We was connected, with the world, So what Esau has done is he's thrown off everything to where Jake isn't even in tune, with with the herbs. The scriptures say that the Lord has made medicines out of the earth, and he
Mhm.
that is wise will not abhor them. Roughly paraphrasing, you see. So we had a connection with that, you know.
Right.
So I'm gonna go back to this. This is Mashal, yeah, Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 27. It says, "Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house." You see, so the earth, you know, Ha'aratazah, you know, the world, the earth, you know, essentially that's just one big house, you know. And the Lord, he said it in a certain order. You see, what Esau has done is thrown off that order, you know.
Hmm.
So let's get Jeremiah chapter let's get Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 7. Actually, could we get that article with the relations with Somalia and the US?
Khan. This one right here.
Con. And we read from
Khan.
the top. We get a couple points in there.
Khan. Uh, Pretty much this reads U.S. Somalia relations. It says the United States and Somalia established diplomatic relations in 1960,
Hmm.
following Somalia's independence from British and Italian administration. After a 1969 coup, Somalia's elected government was replaced by military rule, which
Hmm.
aligned the country with the Soviet Union. However, in the 1970s, following a war with Ethiopia, Somalia began seeking support from the West, including the United States, for military and economic aid.
Right, and it's a spirit that you know the name is Somalia, you know, because if you was to turn with the default direction being the east, you know, you got Yaman, Yemen at your right. If you turn to the left, you know, Somalia will be facing, you know, the U.S., you know, and they seek to the U.S. as an ally. That's one of their supports, you know.
Hmm. It says the outbreak of civil war in the 1980s led to the collapse of Somalia's general government in 1991.
Right, and
During,
I want to get a couple precepts on that.
Mhm.
This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 11, and it says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." You know, essentially going. I wanted to go into the two horns like a lamb because that essentially serves as, you know, the two sides of the same entity. You know, when we look at America, you know, you have the Democrats, you got the Republicans. When you looked at Rome, or which America is nothing more than Rome 2.0, you had the plebeians, you had the patricians. You see, so when we see that they ally with the U.S., you see, but what does that bring? It said that they just broke out in a civil war, so it's going to bring a lot of turmoil and animosity and things of that nature. I'm gonna get this. This is Yashaya Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 2, and it says, and I will set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, excuse me, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, which, you know, that's going to increase in the times to come in America, Babylon the Great, you see. But even now, you know, everything is divided. You know, when you entrust in America, Babylon the Great, you gotta essentially, you know, play by their rules. And when you play by their rules, it brings turmoil into your country, you know.
Mhm. That's right. Continuing on, it says during this period, various Somali factions, sometimes supported by external forces, fought for control for the country. Although diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Somalia were never formally severed, the U.S. embassy in Somalia was closed from 1991 to 2018. Despite numerous uh, mediation efforts, a transitional government was established in 2004. Somalia completely completed its political transition in 2012 with a new federal parliament and president.
Right, and we've seen various different examples of that. You know, with the U.S., you know, they try to go into, you know, Vietnam. You know, they lost that war. You know,
Right.
they lost the war. They went down. You know, in Somalia. You know, back in like the 19 the year 1999s, or if that's how you say that. You know, from
Mm,
1990 to like the year 2000. You know, they was over there occupying that land, trying to essentially feed them that Babylon juice. You see. Let me get a quick
mhm.
precept real fast. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 6. Let me get verse 7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. You see, so each time that America, goes and talks this diplomacy shit, embassies and we want to set up a McDonald's, we want to have some malls, a strip mall over here. Anytime they do that, we essentially see that the country see that it's not beneficial to life. We saw what happened in I believe it was Pakistan or Afghanistan or something like that. You had people trying to jump on the goddamn planes. They went over there with that westernization. They had women without the hijabs and stuff like that. But as soon as America went out of there, like they was pretty much Ishmael was setting things back in order.
Mm-hmm. Khan. Hey, can I get a scripture to back you up?
Yeah, you got it.
I think you know which one I'm going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah 51:7.
Yeah.
It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken over wine, therefore the nations are mad.
Mm-hmm.
So just like you were bringing out, over there in Pakistan or Afghanistan, right? As soon as as soon as United States stepped foot in there, it started feeding the people that wine, shit started getting out of control. There were articles at that time going out talking about, women driving, raising the crash rate in those places.
Right.
You have certain other things like just certain what you would call so-called freedoms that America gave those people over there that got them all scared because like you mentioned, what were they called? The Taliban had to come in and set order back.
Right.
All those people that try to leave were people that partook in that wine.
Mm-hmm.
But all these countries, they see, how corrupt and how fucked up their country ends up becoming as soon as they partake in that, in Esau's philosophies, though.
Right. I'm gonna get this. This is Ayawab. Could you get Deuteronomy 32:7? I'm gonna get this. This is Ayawab, Job chapter 10, and we'll get verse 21, and it says, before I go whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. A land of darkness is darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is darkness. So essentially, when you look at that land of darkness will be America, Babylon the Great, and it says without any order. We got the word for Oriental that meant the way of the East. Hakwadam. Hakwadam. The East. That way was established when you go into East in the blue letter. When you get in the Hebrew, it goes into something that was original, something that was took precedence because that was what was established by the Lord. So I'm gonna read this again. It's Ayawab, Job 10:22. A land of darkness is darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order. There ain't no order over here. You got the woman over the man. All right. Essentially, as far as Esau's so-called animal kingdom, he calls animals out of their names. So essentially, what that does to those animals is essentially takes them out of what they're ultimately supposed to do. So everything is out of course. So with the different nations, they see that, they can't live like that. It's not been Esau's government and his lifestyle is not beneficial to life. It actually goes into a death style. So it says, and where the light is darkness. So what's called light is actually dark. The things that are said that are praised are ultimately things that you don't want to be getting caught up into. You see, because if you continue in those lifestyles, essentially, you're going to reap destruction.
Mm-hmm. Con. Hey, may I get a precept for you? Just to add to the point about Esau turning things upside down.
Con.
Pretty much changing things. This is
Yeah.
Isaiah 29:16. It says, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. And just adding to your point, just not even just with the map, because
Mm-hmm.
like we mentioned before, the east is supposed to be the true north. That's supposed to be north. That's supposed to be the top of the map. And
Right.
even ancient maps back in the day, they always had east as being the north, in modern days. But um, with Esau turning everything upside down, changing the times, changing season, and everything, he has completely disoriented everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Has everybody discombobulated. Not
Right.
knowing the true way, not knowing the truth. Period. But even with maps and things like that, like it just shows you how far this man has been allowed to pretty much set things out of order.
Right. And essentially, we were supposed to be connected with the earth. When we look at we're supposed to be, tapping into the herbs. Esau has made it to where, the herbs are illegal. He banned certain herbs, all right, certain foods. He don't want you to know that you're supposed to eat. He got GMOs. All right, the default direction, is to the to the north. You see, over here in America, you drive on the left hand side. You see, but if we was to Google right now, who has the most accidents? It will be in America, Babylon the Great. When we look at the East, they drive on the right hand side. You see, because your brain is meant to go from right to left, not left to right. We read from left to right. All right, we drive on the left side. So you process information slower when it's coming from left to right. You see, but when it's right to left, how it's supposed to be, essentially things are taking its full course. Baba Shah, could we get Isaiah chapter? I'm gonna get Isaiah 26 and verse 9, but I'm gonna have you hold that Isaiah 29 and 16. But this is Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 9, and it says, with my soul have I desired thee in the night, yet with my spirit within me will I seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. And that's ultimately what the earth needs, you see, because essentially it's like a puzzle, it's like a giant puzzle piece. It just fit, it just go. You see what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of things will run a lot more smooth if everything was how it's supposed to be ran, you see, but from the rulership of this devil, all right, essentially, everything is out of course. Everything is where it ain't supposed to be. That's why, a lot of times people is looking at the fruit of the issue and not the root. They thinking that it's this or it's that, you see, but really it goes back to, Hadarak Shaw Hakwadam, the way of the East. We supposed to go back to the way of the East, Jeremiah 6 and 16, Baba Kashah. Could go back to the Isaiah 29. You got it right there? Yeah.
Khan.
It says, you go ahead.
Khan, this is Isaiah 29 and 16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work of him that made him, Slakia, for shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he hath no understanding?
So essentially, Esau Edom has turned everything upside down, and in doing so, essentially that's like him saying that the Lord didn't know what he was doing, you see. But Esau is wrong for thinking that, you see, because the Lord made everything, so everything came with a rule book, and we were to uphold that rule book. You see, it's just Esau Edom, he just do whatever the fuck he want. He got everybody else following that same mindset, and we see that where that has taken us, to this day, this world needs a reset,
Khan, hey, bro, and it's crazy because when you look at these G7 summits or these Davos summits, and you hear these what they call them, these technocrats, they pretty much say that they're there to fix God's mistake, quote unquote, right? So they're even saying it with their science that the Most High made mistakes. They're saying it with their philosophies by allowing men to be women and women to be men. They're saying it with pretty much everything that they push out. They're pretty much going against the grain. They're going against everything that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has set up, like it says in Second Thessalonians. If I may get that real quick.
Khan, you got it.
Second Thessalonians, Salakia. Yo, I can't stand these autocorrect.
Right. I can read it for you.
Khan, Baba Kusha.
God, this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. It says, for the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Salakia, Baba Kusha, mind going up and reading that verse 7?
Kanye, you want me to read it again?
I mean, Salakia, verse 4, Baba Kusha, Salakia.
Kanye, yeah, sorry, there. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and we'll start at verse 3. And it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
Right, so who's that man of sin? As we know it to be Esau Edom, right? The devil that the Bible speaks of. And that day is talking about the end, right? That day ain't going to come except to come falling away first, which already happened, and now we're coming back. And that man of sin being revealed. And as we see, man, this man has a heavy exposure is coming out on this man. A
Con,
lot of things is coming out that this man is the wicked, right? But go ahead.
verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High sitteth in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High.
Right. So it says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High. So he's in complete opposition to the Lord. And he sets himself up as being in that seat, that high seat. Right. That's why this man always likes to push his science, likes to push, his Darwinism, likes to push all these ideals that is completely contrary to the scriptures. Even though this man knows, like the apostles always say, in order to tell a lie, you gotta know the truth.
Right.
And this man
Con.
knows the truth, and he was allowed to go out there and deceive the world. Hey, but that's just the role this man has to play, right?
Right.
You were gonna say something though?
Yeah, you was pretty much saying in order for him to tell a lie, he got to know the truth. Just
Mm-hmm.
like he understand that Oriental means oriented to the east. You see, but he
Mm-hmm.
chooses the left or the north as the default direction. So essentially to disorient, because in order to be disoriented, you would have to know what to be oriented meant.
Right, right. That's a definition.
Right.
That's a
So
literal definition. But
can I
yeah,
continue? You want me to continue on?
that was pretty much it on that. That was all I
Con.
wanted to get.
Con. I'm gonna get this. This is where was we at? Isaiah. We got Isaiah 29. I'm gonna get this real fast because
Mm-hmm.
again, the nations essentially subscribe to these ways, which are not beneficial to life. This is Yashaya Isaiah 59, and we'll get verse 7, which this is essentially ascribed, to Israel when we was going off, back in the ancient world. You see, but this also can be applied, to America, Babylon the Great, because that's the overall spirit in the society in this particular civilization. And it says,
Con.
Isaiah, you said what?
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay. This is Isaiah 59 and verse 7. It says, their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their paths. The way of peace they know not. Don't nobody know peace. Niggas are unreasonable. You can't reason with them niggas. They don't know the way of
Mm-hmm.
peace. It says the way of peace they know not. Neither can Esau. And it says, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made them crooked paths. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. You see, because again, that's the spirit of America, Babylon Great, and those countries that essentially subscribe to that lifestyle. Essentially, they had problems within their country. You see, that's why they essentially, when America get up out of there, that they ready to reestablish order. But it
Mm-hmm.
says, verse 9, therefore is judgment far from us, neither doeth justice overtake us. We wait for light, but behold obscurity, the land of darkness. For brightness, but we walk in darkness. Everybody in America, Babylon the Great, is in pure darkness. Let me get this real fast. This is Yashaya, Isaiah 60 and verse 2, and it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. You see, so it's gross darkness over this planet Earth. You see, which America is essentially the epicenter of the darkest, the deepest, darkest crevice that you can get to. You see, which everybody essentially is following after the ways of America, Babylon the Great. But going back to Isaiah 59, and we'll skip down to verse 13, it says, in transgressing and lying against the Lord and departing away from our power, speaking oppression and revolt and conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. Again, the spirit in America. It says, and judgment is turned away backward, and justice standeth afar off, for truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Yea, truth faileth, and he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. And the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. You see, so just reading down, in that chapter, essentially all of those words, essentially, again, are as ascribed to Jake, going off in the ancient world. You see, but this can be applied to American society. You see, because again, nobody is reasonable. Nobody can reason. There's no peace, no truth, no justice. Everything is essentially in a disorderly fashion. Whereas it was supposed to be conducted in oriented fashion. To have true orientation, which that means to be in the ways of the scriptures. The whole earth was supposed to be ran in the way of the scriptures. You see, but that's not how it's being ran.
Right. Right.
So
Everything's out of order.
right,
When it comes to the breakdown, when it comes to, well, the breakdowns, when it comes to the truth of the scriptures, when it comes to, pretty much everything, bro. Everything is a complete disorientation. There's no truth out here. The only truth you're gonna get is through the prophets, through the men of the Lord.
right,
There really is no truth out here. That's why the scriptures say there should be a crying for wine in the streets, right? Right now, people ain't screaming and crying because right now people are still comfortable. They're comfortable in this lives. But once shit really hits the fan, hey, people gonna start looking for answers, man. Which the answers are right here. This is where you got to go to receive that orientation.
right.
Hey, what do they say whenever you go and go to a new job and you're about to get schooled on what to prepare for and what you got to do? They call it
Hmm.
an orientation,
Right,
right? Meaning you're gonna get the correct direction of what you're gonna do or what you're gonna be doing for that job.
right.
Jacob
Just
never
like
had that when it comes to the truth. So, like, you gonna say something?
I was gonna add to your point because pretty much like even with the car, like after the car been fucked up, rolled through dirt, rocks and shit, after saying like you get your tires rotated, but then you get that alignment, to get you
Mm,
back on track. This truth essentially aligns us and gets us on track. We supposed to stay on that track.
right. Con.
From there, let's go to that Deuteronomy 32:7. I'm gonna get Job 8. I'm gonna get down to verse 10, and I got a couple more, and that'll be it. And then whatever else you had.
Con. Salakia.
I'm gonna get this though, and then we
Con.
grab that. This is Ayawab Job 8 and verse 8. It says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of thy fathers." Or excuse me, it says, "And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers." Which when we go into this word for former, all right, it says Ra'ashwan, which means primary. Pretty much going into the way of the east. It says ancestors, former things, foremost of location. And when we look at how the sun rises, it rises in the east. So that would be foremost location. It says first in time, first chief in degree. It says first before, formerly at first. So essentially, the ways are old. But it says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because of our days upon the earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee and tell thee and utter words out of their heart?" You see, so even when Jake was going off in wickedness, but even like in the world, Jake could say, hey, they had some type of, I guess, morality, with themselves in the former ages. You see, so how much more so with the truth, essentially, how it was ran in the ancient world. Like that was the way to go. That's how essentially it's going to be how to thrive, how it's going to thrive instead of surviving. Because the mindset and the ideologies of today are just westernization, which is nothing more than Hellenization, which those ways were proven to not work. When we go into those words, essentially it goes into contemporary. Con is with, temporary is just temporary. With temporariness. If that's a word. Then also when we look at modernism, modernism is nothing more than a big ass experiment.
Con. Con. I got uh I got something for you real quick.
Are you good?
This is second Ezra 14. I'm sorry, 16. It says second Ezra 14 and 16. It says, "For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen shall happen." Salakia. "For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. For look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein." So just
Mm-hmm.
going back to your point, generation from generation, things haven't gotten better, things has gotten worse.
Right.
Every generation is more wicked than the last. What was that scripture? You have done worse than your fathers, right?
Right.
So the previous generation was a little bit more I guess you could say, more down to earth, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. They acknowledged the Most High more, even though
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have the truth. A lot of them had more morals, like you mentioned.
Right.
More of a stance on doing good, doing righteousness. You look at these YNs right now out there on the street, bro. They're completely out of order, man.
Right.
They're through, man. They're finished. The Most High has to bring that correction, and of course, He's going to bring it through the way of the sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
But hey, that correction is needed because, man, the way things is going, you see Jake out here, man. Another 10 years, another 20 years, man. Jake is like the like the priest always says, they're going to be nothing but gay robots out here, man.
Right.
Breaking
Con.
into your house, acting all crazy, talking to people any kind of way. You know, they used to say back in the day, respect your elders, bro. I don't hear that. I don't hear that no more.
Nah.
You know, motherfuckers, damn 19-year-old, 18-year-old be talking to an old man like he's the same age. It's like, goddamn,
Right.
bro.
Right. Let's
Nah, but this
let's
whole
get
Western society is through, man. You got it, bro. Salakia.
let's get let's get let's get Romans 8:22.
Khan,
And I got a couple more. And that'll pretty much be it.
Khan. This is Romans 8 and verse 22. It reads, "For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now."
Right. Pretty much the whole creation is essentially in a mourning type of a state. The scriptures say in Psalms, the 82nd chapter, essentially that all the foundations are out of course. As far as life, life is meant to essentially, thrive, to continue to replenish itself. It shouldn't be to where, essentially we run out of resources. We got to make GMO food.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially Esau has overused things to where it can't replenish itself, which I'm gonna
Mm.
get that too. This is a lot. The scripture that talks about woe to thee, O land, when thy ruler is a child.
Mm. Let me see. See if I can find it.
I got it right here. This is Kohelet, Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 16. It says, woe to thee, O land. Woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning, you see. So essentially, that instant gratification that Esau come with,
Mm-hmm.
because essentially things has to be ran in a certain specific order, you see, which Esau isn't upholding that. And that's why we're in this predicament, right now. He's running things in a disorderly fashion. Verse 17, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles. And that's essentially, what we're being trained up to do is be nobles. We're in a kingship training. And it says, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength and not for drunkenness. Scripture said, the nations was mad because they drunk of that wine. You see, essentially Esau has ran the world. He's made the whole earth drunk. Essentially
Mm-hmm.
we supposed to again, eat in due season, do things. Scripture say, let all things be done decently and in order.
Right.
So it's supposed to be done in a particular type of fashion. So Esau's overused things.
Mm-hmm.
He's also messed up the mindset of other people. You see, and many, many more things, which we'll see in the kingdom. You see, but just a couple of examples. All right, he said the default orientation to the north on the map. All right, he calls animals out of their name. He puts animals. Esau say the animal is dumb. You see, but he'll put something in a space to where it's not going to thrive. On purpose, and then
Mm-hmm.
sit there and be like, oh well. It's just, they lack intelligence, you see, but nah, you're supposed to put it where it's supposed to be at,
Mm-hmm.
i.e., like the example again, calling a dog a fish, in Hebrew, the word for fish is dog, because of how the tail moves. But the reason why he calls a dog, because it wags the tail. You see, but that throws off the vibration of the dog. It really it's supposed to be Kalab, Caleb, Caleb's name is Kala, which means a dog. So essentially,
Mm-hmm.
those again serve as examples. You see how this devil has thrown the earth out of course. You know,
Right.
but
Khan.
let's
Yeah.
get.
It ain't nothing allowed to serve its proper function.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing allowed to pretty much be in his proper space, his proper habitat. Esau destroying all these damn forests and shit. Pushing all the animals out. And just like you mentioned, pretty much Esau like cause these animals dumb. But like you mentioned, he takes it out of its normal habitat, out of its normal thing, and the animal is trying to adapt. And here it is, this
Hmm.
man is calling it stupid, and calling it like all these names just because it's not able to, you know, do what he wants it to.
Right.
But hey, they did the same thing to us. They took us out. They created a whole education system where they knew
Hmm.
Jake wasn't going to be able to thrive in, and then calling us dumb.
Right.
That's just the way Esau gets down, though.
Yeah. I got this. This is
Hmm.
Mashal Yah, Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 11. And it says, a just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weights of the bag are his work. You see, I'm going to get this too, and then go back to that. This is Mashal Yah, Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 1. It says, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So when we look at all of creation was essentially balanced, balanced perfectly together. All right, by Esau taking one thing out of the habitat, it's throwing off the whole. How Esau had that, it was called the food chain. If you take one thing out the food chain, it's gonna mess up this. Like if you look at they take the shrimp out the ocean, you killing the whales now. Now the whales got a purpose. Now whatever the purpose of the whales was, essentially that's messing that up. You see, so when you put it in reference to the whole earth, you take one thing out, essentially it's throwing off the balance, and that would be an abomination. Esau's running this world in an abomination type of state. I'm gonna go back to this. This is Marshall, yeah, Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 11. This is a just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weights of the bag are his work. And we actually get that word for balance. It comes from the Hebrew word azan. The word for balance is ma'azanyam, which means scales or balances. Reason why it goes back to azan is because the ears, that's the word for ears, azan, and your ears are perfectly balanced. You see, it's equilibrium. So what Esau is doing
Mm,
is he's taking one thing out of the habitat. He's throwing off the equilibrium of the earth. You see, to
mm,
where the earth fighting back. Because essentially, again, this devil is essentially ruling the earth like this. This is Mashal, yeah, Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. Everybody's going to be rejoicing, you see, because everything is going to be back in its natural estate. We're going to be able to thrive. We're going to have food. Things are going to naturally replenish itself. It's going to be abundance, you see. But when you overuse things, all right, that's when you're going to start lacking. That's when you start having shortages. You're going to start having famines and stuff like that. But it says, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Everybody right now is mourning. Everything is mourning. Trees, the people, all the creation is essentially mourning, from the rulership of this devil. And that word for mourn, it says to sigh, to groan in pain or grief, to gasp, pretty much groaning in pain, in excruciating pain, just because of how Esau runs the earth. Because we see his mindset. I'm going to get this real fast. I'm going to go ahead and close it off. You ain't had nothing, bro. You got anything, Yeshaya? Let me grab this. This is Tahoyim, Psalms chapter 10 and verse 3. And it says, for the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. You see, he boasts of his heart desire. This NWO is his heart's desire. You see, what the scriptures say, he's not going to be able to attain that. All right, it says, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, would not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all of his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. You see, so essentially, Esau Edom is not thinking about, the ways of the scriptures. You see, so that's essentially how he's going to, run his society. He's going to run a society of disorganization, confusion. And that's essentially what we see, all right, all over the planet Earth. And that's why this world, needs a reset, Did you have anything else, bro?
I got one for you.
Can you go
This
ahead?
is Slovakia. Baba Kushai, you mind reading Romans 8 and verse 16? Baba Kushai.
Mm-hmm. It's Romans chapter 8 In verse 16, it says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. That's what you want. Okay, I'm gonna run this back. I'm gonna go to Romans 8 and 16, just to drop home the point. It says, for we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. You see, so essentially, again, this the world needs new rulership. You see, which is going to come under the Lord Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. You see, which Yahweh Shai is essentially going to serve as that top ruler. You see, in the 144,000. Well, King David, the 12 disciples in the 144,000, and essentially everything is going to be in a rejoicing type of state. You see, so I don't want to Lord's will. That was a beautiful edification through the Spirit. Well, I don't want to Atam Yash Layla Tawab. I'm going to close it up by saying, Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rocha Hakwadash, double honest elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us his truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. Halayla Tawab, shalom.
Shalom.